Monica's a per diem nurse, and a lot of nurses have been asking her what it's like to be a per diem nurse where she works. So we're going to be talking about why per diem may not be for you if you're considering it, and we're also going to be talking about some of the pros of being per diem. Monica has a list of questions and some topics she wants to talk about related to being a per diem nurse. So the first thing we're going to cover is what?
Healthcare benefits.
Okay, so if you're a per diem nurse, the one thing you need to be aware of is that you're not gonna have healthcare benefits. And the good thing about our situation is that I work part-time, Monica works per diem, so she gets her benefits from me. Our entire family gets our benefits from me. So we get a health insurance, we get dental insurance, we get eye care, all of that is included. And I only have to pay my union dues in order to qualify for that. But even though Monica still has to pay union dues, she still doesn't qualify for the benefits of health insurance and dental insurance. So if you are in a relationship where you have a domestic partner or you have a husband or a wife, you actually can get insurance through them if you choose to go per diem. And I think that's like the best of both worlds, right?
Also, FSA and HSA benefits. I don't get that. I'm not eligible.
Actually, no.
I never applied for it.
So she's right. So we had a situation with our daughter.
She had to get braces.
Yeah, so with our daughter, she had to get braces. And when we found out that we had to pay out of pocket, it was about $5,600. I had a coworker who told me that we have FSA through our employer and I should apply for it even after we paid for the braces. And the way that we did it was we went back to our employer and we submitted an application for FSA. And then you have to be aware that you can't just apply for FSA. There's a period throughout the year where your employer will have open enrollment so you can apply for FSA. And FSA is a federal savings account that allows you to use that money that's pre-tax, like 401k is pre-tax. It allows you to use that money towards healthcare related expenses. And that includes things like toiletries or medical supplies and medicine, stuff that you can get even through Amazon, or you can purchase supplies through there and use your FSA card to pay for it. So after we got that FSA account, they were deducting the money from our paycheck on a weekly basis. And then we used the FSA card to pay for our daughter's braces. So then we ended up getting the money back that we ended up paying out of pocket initially. And it saved us out of the $5,600, like an extra $2,000 or something like that.
So yes or no, am I eligible?
You are not eligible.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not eligible for FSA.
One more. This is huge for somebody who is planning to have kids or planning to get pregnant. If you're a per diem employee, you are not qualified to go on modified duty.
Yeah, it's basically like light duty at work. So you're not going to be lifting patients and you're not going to be doing like heavy lifting at all if you're a benefited employee. But if you're a per diem employee, they're not required.
They just won't give you hours. They won't give you shifts.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you're a benefited employee and you work 24 hours, 32 hours, you still get to go to work and you can do OT, but you still get to go to work and do light duty. You can work as a monitor tech. They'll have you audit charge, which like when I was pregnant, they told me you should just go on modified. For like the last few weeks, I was already pre-booked to work. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be auditing charts.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. That's
but
boring.
you know, the funny thing is that when Monica went on maternity leave, she didn't know that she could take 4 weeks off before her due date and waited 2 weeks before her due date to take time off.
I kind of didn't want to go. I actually wanted to work all the way to my very last week.
But those 4 weeks would have been paid.
Yeah.
So
was it halfway paid though?
Well, okay, so she was getting paid about $1,350 every week. So when you go on maternity leave, you get paid weekly as opposed to bi-weekly. And you can ask them to either send you a check in the mail or they can send you the money and deposit it into a card that's mailed to you once. And then you can use that card like a Visa card wherever you go shopping. But we actually opted in for the check because then we could just deposit that in our bank account and we didn't have to worry about having to withdraw that money from a debit card that they provided to us. So that was the benefit to getting the checks.
Piggybacking on the light duty, modified duty, if you injure yourself, same thing. If you're pregnant, if you injure yourself, again, you cannot work per diem. They will not give you those shifts. As opposed to, I had coworkers who injured themselves, got into a car accident, whatever. And so they could still work and do light duty and those shifts will always be guaranteed.
That's true.
As opposed to per diem, they're not going to rebook you for those shifts. Somebody asked me, do we get pension as a per diem nurse?
So there's always a caveat to this. Most hospitals actually won't give you a pension depending on where you're located. If you're located in the Midwest, I'm guessing that's probably not a thing. Like, you're not going to get a pension or pension benefits if you are a per diem employee. Even in the South, it's probably going to be hospital dependent. But if you're in like California, many of the hospitals here, if you work a minimum number of hours, you will qualify for the pension. You will get vested. So Monica has to work a minimum of 1,000 hours per year in order to be vested and to get pension benefits. So that's the positive thing about working for our facility, our hospital system, is that, you know, as long as she works 1,000 hours or more, she's going to be able to cash out this balance on her pension by the time she retires. And I also should mention, we had a live stream previously where I talked about how to calculate your pension benefits and how much you would be able to have by the time you retire within the Kaiser system. So you can either go to that live stream, it was a couple of days ago.
Then did we discuss 401k?
Oh, okay. So for 401ks, again, you know, a lot of facilities will actually give their employees 401k benefits if they're per diem. And Kaiser is one of them. So in addition to getting pension benefits, you also qualify for 401k contributions when you're working with the Kaiser system. So Monica and I, we've been trying to max out our 401k every single year for like the last 3-4 years or so. In addition to having your 401k in retirement, you also have your pension within the Kaiser systems. That's one of the good things about being per diem within the Kaiser system, is that you still qualify for the 401k contributions.
Okay, number 3 is seniority and shift availability. So when I first worked at Kaiser, I wasn't per diem. I worked day shift, 32 hours. And I remember telling Jason, you should let me go per diem so I could make more and I could have more of a flexible schedule. And, you know, because Kaiser, you're not self-scheduling. You have a template. So I wanted more flexibility. I wanted to have better pay. So I remember I was telling you, I was like, let me go per diem. Remember how nervous you were? He was so nervous. He was like, no, we shouldn't do it because, you know, what if you don't get your shifts? Which honestly, that actually came through. Like after a month or so when I became per diem, I didn't realize that because I only have 1 year of seniority at that unit that I was working in. I have a coworker in that unit who would always work 40 hours a week and he would eat up all the shift that was available. And I was like, dude, I'm only getting 2 shifts a week. So what I had to do was I had to listen out to ad hoc and listen out for notifications. If somebody called out that night, I would have to call him like, hey, I'm available. Can I come in? And that was really hard. For the first year, I wasn't getting as much as I am getting now. So I came from day shift and then I switched over to night shift because I wanted that night shift differential and I just didn't want to do day shift anymore. So when I came in, I think people are always asking me like, oh, I want to go per diem, I want to go per diem. If you don't have a lot of seniority, you may not get 1,000 hours a year.
That's true. And I remember the reason why I didn't want her to go per diem is because we had just bought our home. And I was like, okay, I just started working at Kaiser and you want to go per diem? I'm not sure how the per diem process works within the Kaiser system. What if you don't get any shifts? Because that's how I kind of remember it in other facilities. The per diem nurses didn't always get the shifts that they wanted. And that's kind of how I thought the Kaiser system would be. And it was initially, but once you start building up your seniority, you're the first one to get all of the per diem shifts that you opt in for.
So yeah, his concern was valid, but eventually it worked out. Do you remember the first time you saw my paycheck as a per diem?
Yeah. I was like, holy crap, what a difference.
Yeah, I was like, I told you, I told you.
But you know what? I should also mention that she only has to work, I believe it's like 4 shifts every 28 days.
The required amount of shifts you have to. And I think you just need to put your availability in.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever worked so little to the point where they're calling me and saying like, oh, you need to put in your availability, you need to work this much shifts and hours. Because I've had some other per diemers tell me, you know, they called me and told me to put in my availability because I haven't been at work for a few months.
Which is why I think it's cool, because if you're in a relationship where you can go per diem and your partner can work with benefits, then you guys can just match up your schedule in a way where you can take off your vacations at the same time. So like we're gonna be going on vacation in the next week or so. I'm gonna be off for 10 days and that's paid vacation for me, but Monica doesn't get paid. So what she does is she'll work a lot of days. She just worked 8 days in a row right before our vacation, and now she's gonna be off for 21 days. Then she goes back to work and she picks up like additional shifts when she comes back to work. That's how we usually do it.
And if you have kids and you need childcare, I think having a spouse that works per diem works out so well for us, especially because we have our son. He's only 2.5. So we would alternate shifts because I'm flexible. He's not flexible with his template. I can just work around his schedule. Let's see. My 4th is... Oh man, this is what I hate. If you don't have enough seniority, if you have very minimal seniority, they will float you. And they will float you first. When we have a benefited staff working in their shift that night, they won't float. You're the first one to float. But if they're working an extra outside their contract, if they're a 32-hour employee, they want to work 40 hours that week, they will float first. It's a really weird system that they have, but you're usually the first one to float out. And if I work in tele, and sometimes they float me, and they float me to other tele floats, which I'm fine with, but they will float you to med surge, and I just hate it because you get 5 patients.
This is more of an issue if you're working per diem on a tele, med surge, and maybe ICU. But if you work
ICU, ICU nurses get floated to med surge, and they hate it.
Yeah.
They hate it so much.
Yeah, and I interviewed Oliver before, who is a nurse that works in the ICU, and he told me that he would oftentimes just pick up extra shifts in the med surge and the tele floors, but he hated working med surge. Do you like working in the med surge or tele floors at all?
Oh, gosh. I'm telling you, floor and tele nursing is harder than ICU nursing.
But if you work in the ER, though, that's a different story. You don't get floated. You can be per diem, and they're not going to float you to a tele or med surge floor. That's unheard of. Because if anything, we need med surge and tele nurses to come to the ER to take care of our med surge and tele patients that are waiting for beds to get admitted. So that's at least the one plus that I can say about being per diem in the ED. And also, if you're an ED nurse, the cool thing is that you can pick up shifts at any time of the day.
Do you remember last year I was hustling so much because I wanted to travel? So there were days where I would just work day shift so that our daughter could watch our son, and I could just go to work, and then I'd come home, and then Jason could go to. Do you remember that? On the weekends, we would have our daughter babysit our son, so I could work during day shift.
Yeah.
And then I also do doubles, which is from PMs to nights, 3 to 11 and 11 to 7.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest money maker.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For sure.
And somebody asked me, how did you make 6 figures already and you work 20 hours a week? It's because I do a lot of doubles.
And you know what? If you guys want us to talk about how we're able to work less than 20 hours a week and make $120,000, $150,000 a year, let us know in the comments section below. But all right, so we had to come back to the drawing board. We're dressed up because we were gonna do the thumbnail for the video. So we actually forgot to talk about the pay. A lot of the reasons why people want to go per diem versus benefited is because the pay is so much higher. Well, at least it depends on the facility. Some facilities only pay like an extra $5 per hour, but within the Kaiser system, you're making an extra like $22 per hour.
So here we go. My very, very base pay is $89.45. With the per diem differential, it's $109, and with the night shift differential, it's $13.38. So altogether, about $124 per hour.
Yeah, and then you also have to remember that if she picks up time and a half, which she does often, she'll make like an extra like $65, $67 in addition to the $124 that she's already making. So she's making $190 per hour when she works time and a half. So if she does do a 16-hour shift, then she's getting paid $248 per hour every single hour of double time that she earns. That's after the 12-hour of work. So when she's doing a 16-hour shift.
So it's 16-hour shift. Jason calculated if I do a 16-hour shift, it's actually $2,700 pre-tax.
Yeah, but I remember when I was working in New York, the nurses that were working per diem at the time, this was like 6-7 years ago, they were getting paid like $68 an hour, but it's still not at where the Northern California nurses are, because the Northern California nurses, not just within the Kaiser system, are getting paid on average like $90 to $100 per hour. So any time and a half that they make or double time is going to be paid at $200 per hour or more. That's just the reality of working here in Northern California. Okay, so let's move on to the rest of the video. If you guys want more videos like this, make sure you let us know in the comment section below. And that's it for today. Bye.